Hello, thank you so much for watching today's video. In this video, I am going to be showing you on how you can draft your own will. So I'll be taking you through a wills template that will be able to assist you when you want to draft your own will. So let us get started, right? So please note that I am not a lawyer. So this is just how I would draft my own will. So this is not any legal advice or anything. It's just how I would do it if I were to draft my own will. All right. So when drafting your will, ignore that page. Okay. So now, when you are going to draft your will, the first thing that you actually need is, so this is just a template of what you're going to say. So for example, let's say, we have, can you see that? Or does it need me to focus it more? Can you see? Yes, I think it's a little bit focused. Okay, for example, let's say we have a guy whose name is Joe, and Joe is a South African, and he's got 3 children. He is married, ANC, without a crew, right? So now Joe comes, and you are Joe, and you want to draft your own will, for example. So the first thing that we actually do to draft a will is we mention Joe's name. So here you need to mention your name and your surname and your ID number. That is the first thing that you need to mention, because we need to know who you are, And then after that, you need to be able to revoke all previous wills. Okay, so the reason why when you draft in your will, you must revoke all previous wills is because wills are things that are dated. So we normally use the current will. So if you don't revoke all previous wills, it'll just cause a conflict with your wills and what you wanted. So you need to revoke any other will that you have out there. Sometimes you find that you have a will hidden and you don't know where it is or anything. So then you would actually... Okay, so you will revoke any other previous wills, because the trick with not revoking other wills is maybe you have a will somewhere that's hidden and we don't know where it is, and then people can actually use that will, so just revoke any other will that you have. So then you would obviously say, I revoke any other will. Then after that, you will then put your bequeath, right? So a bequeath is what should happen to your assets. So when you're doing a bequeath, you can either decide if you're going to do it in percentages, or if you're going to give each person a specific item. All right, so you will then decide, am I doing it in percentages or am I giving each person a specific item? So now let's go back to our example of Joe. So Joe has 3 children. So Joe is going to say, I'm going to give equal share to all my 3 children, ABC. So Joe will give equal share to all kids, A, B, and C. So don't forget that when you're naming your kids, right, you should always include an ID number, because when you don't include an ID number, anybody can claim to be A, anybody can claim to be B, anybody can claim to be C. So we need to be able to make sure that these people are identifiable, right? So let's say it happens that Joe's wife is pregnant with another child and they are not listed here. So what he can say, he can even include and say, and all my other children, you get me, all other kids born of me, you see, born of me. Yeah. So that's what he can say when he is doing his own, when he's drafting his own will. If maybe he's got unborn kids that will come after. Yeah, or maybe he doesn't want to tell his wife about the other kids, Yeah, he can just say, all my other kids. Don't forget, they need to become identifiable. And then after that, it's always best that when you are doing your will, you should always have another person to inherit in case your kids pass away. So in this case, if Joe's kids pass away, that's when he can decide if he'll give it to his sisters or brothers or whatever he wishes, his gardener, whoever he chooses to give his kids to. So they should always be like failing this one. So if he gives it to this one and then failing this one, then it's going to go to the brothers and to the sisters, and then that's what he's going to bequeath. He can do it in equal share, or he can say that I give A my house, I give B my car, and I give C all my money, right? And then, so now the trick is, right, when you are mentioning it like this, right, A, B, C by item, there's certain things that you will not necessarily include. So what happens is there's something that we call a residue, right? Residue. So a residue is whatever is left after everything has been distributed, right? So then normally it's done in specific items. Like if I were to leave a fridge to A, a car to B, or whatever it is, we call it under residue. Then you can just say, oh, residue will just go back to the children, right? So yeah, so another thing, just going back here, so if he says, for instance, these kids do not survive him, it goes to his brothers and sisters. He can even give these to his grandchildren, you know. Yeah, so if his kids don't survive him, then their share will go to the grandchildren. Or if it happens that one kid passes away, then this child's share can be equally divided amongst the remaining children. So that's how you decide in terms of bequeaths, right? And then we also get what we call wishes when we are drafting a will. So now a wish is something that is not necessarily executable. For example, I wish that all my kids have a university degree, right? Now, when it comes to a university degree specifically, right, it's not necessarily executable. So what I mean by that is if it happens that maybe your kids are not necessarily, you know, academic, they are good in sports and other things, they won't necessarily go and get an academic degree. You get me? So this is a wish. It's something that you would like them to do, but not necessarily make it happen. Another thing that I've seen a lot is about houses. So a lot of time parents tend to say that this is going to be a family home. That is a wish, right? We can say that, fine, it's a family home, but if your kids decide to sell the house or to do whatever, maybe they're not living in that house anymore, maybe each child has their own house and they're not living in that house anymore and they want to sell it or whatever it is, it's actually a wish. So it's a wish. So you need to speak to your kids and make them know and see if they are willing to satisfy your wish. So that is in terms of the first section, bequeaths, in drawing up your will. Now, after that, remember in my last video, I spoke about children in the will. So if you have kids under the age of 18, that's when now you will create a testamentary trust, right? And when you're creating the testamentary trust, I spoke about age. So if you have not listened to this video, please go back and listen to the video and learn about kids and trusts and everything like that. So you will put then a testamentary trust, and then you will put the age of the trust, and then after that you will put duties, like what you expect the trust to do. So you want the trust to pay school fees, you want the trust to what else, to pay for maintenance of your kids, you want the money to become invested, and after that you'll put a termination age, that okay, when they reach the age of 23, then it can be terminated, so the trust will no longer exist after 23. And then you should also put a clause that speaks about what happens if there is no money within the estate to create a trust, right? So you'll say that if there's no money, then no trust, right? Because then it doesn't make sense for you to create this trust and there's no money to create the trust, and the whole inheritance is eaten up just for this trust. So you can just put a clause there and say no money if there's no trust. Now in this section you'll also add trustees, taking you back to the other video. So you'll nominate your trustees. I want my brother C and D to become my trustees, and they'll be the ones that will distribute your assets. In terms of trustees, I mean, manage the trust, sorry, not distribute assets, manage the trust. And then the next thing that you'll nominate within your trust is you are going to nominate an executor. So now an executor is someone that's going to be distributing your assets. They will be responsible in ensuring that each person gets what they're supposed to get. So I spoke about I don't know if I've spoken about independent executors. So yeah, so you can nominate anyone to be executor. It can be your brother, it can be an agent, and by agent it can be like a bank, it can be a lawyer or anything that you leave the responsibilities to identify, to distribute your assets, right? It can be your brother, an agent, or whoever you choose to distribute your assets. That is very important. You need to be able to nominate an executor who will do that, right? After that, you will pick a guardian, right? Guardian, I always recommend that you pick 2 guardians in case one says no. So then here you'll just say it'll be my mother or my sister or whatever it is that you will put to do the will. I think I'm just going to tear this page so that it's just easier to work with it, right? And then you will include a guardian. So what I've actually spoken about in another video that I did that was speaking about marriage and gifts and all these things about, so you can actually include that in the will, that all inheritances that are given to my children, they are actually excluded from any marriage consequences that they might get into. So you can actually put that in your will that, okay, if I give A, B, C, D, my houses and cars, this inheritance is excluded from the marriage that they choose to enter into, right? Yeah, so then that's when now you will put all those things when you are drafting your will. So these are the most important things to put in when you are doing your will. You need to be able to know who's going to inherit your things. What happens if they are not there? You need to be able to have a testamentary trust if you have minor children and give your testamentary trust duties. There should be trustees, right, which you will nominate. There will be an executor. It can be anyone, a family member, brother, an agent, a lawyer that you choose. And there's also a guardian that you will choose to nominate. Your sister or your brother, if that one refuses, then you just nominate another one. And then after that, you can talk about the inheritance that is excluded from the will. All right, so that is in terms of how to draft your will. So another thing that you should note that is very important when doing your will is it should be signed on every page. All right, and then it should be dated. Okay, yeah, it should be dated, so there should be a date that's there. And please note that when it comes to date, if you wrote a will today and you decide to write another will tomorrow, today's will doesn't stand anymore. So they look at the current date's will. But when you're drafting the will, you have to be like mentally able and mentally capable, because some people just but for example, let's say today you're fine, but tomorrow you are sick and you're not thinking straight and you draft your will, then they can actually take it to court and contest that no, but you are not in your right mind or right capacity when you are doing this specific will. Right, so it should be signed, and it should be signed by 2 witnesses. So there should be 2 witnesses who will also sign on every page of the will, right? And then with the witnesses, they should put their ID numbers as well so that they can become identifiable. Please note that when a will is being drafted, the witnesses should be present when you're signing the will. So it's not like now you can go and draft your will and then you sign it and then tomorrow you go and say, please sign. No, everybody should be present when they are drafting your will for it to be legal. Because if they're not present when you pass away and your kids decide to contest the will and the judge gets these 2 witnesses and says that, were you there for signing of the will? The people can say, no, I wasn't there. And then it's a totally different story, right? So that is in terms of drafting your will, witnesses putting in their ID numbers and and stuff, and then you just sign it on every page. And please note that in terms of the witnesses, right, so the witnesses cannot be younger than 16. Yes, so they need to be 16 and above. They can actually witness a will. Those are the people that can actually witness a will when coming to witnessing a will. And yeah, guys, so that is the will template. So if you are thinking of just doing it yourself, you can just do it yourself. Please don't forget to include how you are married. I spoke about that in my other video. I spoke about marriage in my other video, so you can just watch that video about the marriage and how that affects your will, right? So because this one is married ANC, they can just distribute any assets according to what they want. But if this one was actually married in community of property, then they can only say 50% of my share will go to these people. Okay, yeah. And then, yeah, they can do that. So if, let's say, it's a joint will between a husband and wife, right? So Joe and Sarah. So Joe can actually leave all his assets to Sarah, right? And then if Sarah passes away, that's when then it can go to the kids. And they can even say that if they pass away at the same time, that's when it'll go to the kids. Yeah. Yeah, that's when it'll go to the kids. Okay, so please do watch my video on marriages. It's very important because I speak about the consequences of how you draft your will and how when you leave everything to a spouse, there's certain taxes that you are excluded from. So that is a video on your will template on how to draft your own will. And yeah, please let me know below if this video was insightful and helpful. Don't forget to share it with your friends and family, and I will see you in the next video.